So what we got?
Today, what are we gonna do today?
Red
Red flag
flags, yellow
versus
flags, pink flags. What do
what
we
is
got?
a pink flag?
I don't know. Was that just made up, Melly? Or did you mean yellow flag? I,
Pink flag is something like it's not a hardcore red flag, but
yeah.
it's something to look out for,
Mm-hmm.
to really be conscious of. I mean,
Things that make you go, hmm.
things that
Mm.
make you be like, especially in my case, I'm an intuitive woman, I'm a therapist. I already know what can be the beginning, but I don't overthink anymore. I The healing work has worked around that because I'm just over it. I'm more by actions and energy and intuition and how my body responds to you. And I'm speaking in generally. But a pink flag is like, let me not judge you right away over this, but I'm going to put this in the back pocket and I'm going to pay attention to this because it's like patterns. Well, if that goes with that, then that could be a red flag, but I'm not sure yet because I don't really know you. So let me just
Right. You
sit
don't want to
back.
prejudge. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me sit back and observe because
Mm-hmm.
it's not a matter of thinking, it's a matter of, oh, what I know to be true, and that can like be the beginning of something that could be concerning in the future. But like if I don't really know you, I want to just sit back and observe first.
You want kind of give you the benefit of the doubt
Yeah, I
ish.
mean, just like
Yeah.
I just look at it. I don't know about. I just look at it as I have to observe what
Mm-hmm.
that means because it could be the beginning of something that can. Let's think of examples because now I'm
So
just.
wait. So what if he or she has a past of cheating? Is that like automatic no red flag, or can it be like somewhat pink flag? I know there's a bunch of layers to that.
Well, listen, when
Yeah.
I do a young guys, right? And I don't know how this came up, but it came up in the training room. And all my guy athletes in the room were like, all men cheat on their bachelor party.
Mm.
I go, what?
What if they're golfing?
They were like, "No, that's like your hall pass. Like you can cheat on your bachelor party." And I'm like, "Who told you that?" And they're like, "Every movie." I'm like, "So we live our life off of what movie? That's a movie. That's not reality." And they're like, "No, no, that's what society says. You get a pass, but the guys can do it, the girls can't."
Right.
Excuse me? So, I don't know. I think like it depends on if they've learned from it. I think
Right.
that would
Right.
be my thing. Like, well, why did you do that? And how did that make you feel? Like, I would question it. Like,
Right.
what
So
did you
then
learn from it?
right. So then would it be more like a pink flag,
It
Melly?
depends. I think it
Yeah.
depends because
Mhm.
I think if a serial cheater and that's all they know how to do, and then there's addiction there, there's something else. That's like how are you going to get out of that? Now, if there is yes, I cheated in my past relationships, but I'm ready for more, right? Now I'm ready. Again, age matters, but also does what they saw in their see, this is where it does matter. What did they see and how did they interpret it? You can grow up with a cheating father and say, I would never do that with my mother or to another woman what my dad did to my mother. And you can follow the pattern, right? And, you could have never done work around it. How did that affect and now I'm going to continue the cycle, or I'm going to live in a wounded place because of it, or I'm going to
Yeah.
project this on other women because of the way that I saw women treated. I don't know. And then I think if you cheat in a marriage, let's say one time, and
Mhm.
you really are remorseful and you're willing to go to couples counseling and you're really, really like, I'm so sorry. That was the worst thing I ever did. Like, I really want to work on us. And it was a one time thing. For anybody out there, I don't know that I would like be able to forgive it in order because of like how I can feel affected in the relationship. But I feel like that's genuine. That's a genuine situation versus the man who is like a serial cheater who will never stop cheating on a woman or on you because you took him back so many times. And then
Right.
you have to look at yourself. Where's your self-worth in this, right? And if let's say you're with someone that's constantly cheating and you're constantly forgiving, and then you're like so afraid to be alone that you're not going to break up with him. I feel like this is
Mhm.
so loaded that there's not one
Mhm.
right or
Yeah.
wrong answer. So yeah, it could certainly be a red flag, but I feel like it could also be just a pink flag to ask questions about.
Yeah, because and sometimes the fault can lie between both in the relationship. Men need attention, need certain attention. Some men need attention, then they find it elsewhere. They found it in a coworker or whatever. But then you come together and you figure out why did this break down and what you need to not do this again and work on your relationship. so that hopefully it doesn't happen again. So that I can deal with. Like,
Right. And I think a serial cheater, but I also think like men, could have a porn addiction, or they can have where that takes their attention off of you, right? What are you getting from that that you're not getting from me? And again, that's a whole nother loaded thing or whatever. So it's like, if you're married to a man that has a porn addiction, is that a red flag? Um, I don't know if I would be comfortable with that. I think that would affect my self-worth.
yes.
Woman, that would be a red flag to me. What are some other ones?
What, another red flag?
Yeah. I think for me, a red flag, I always looked at how their relationship was with their family.
Mm, okay.
And not so much that it was a red flag or green flag or whatever, but to me, it was like, well, how do they treat the women in their family? What's their relationship like with their mother? What's their relationship like if they have a sister or whatever? I always looked at that too. And so certain times it would be more so like, let's set a pink flag where I would notice little things, where I would,
So what would be an example? It's like of a guy, if a guy had a sister.
so, like, example would be,
Yeah.
like, my exes, I saw that he had, like, a mom there was, like, a mommy issue there, Like, he loved his mom, but he had a lotta issues with her in the way she treated him and his siblings. He felt
Mhm.
like he treated very differently than his siblings, and he was the oldest. And I think he had so much pent up anger. Like he had this chip on his shoulder about it, among other issues or whatever. And he reminded me a lot of my dad because my dad had a very big mother wound and he had a chip on his shoulder with his mother. And I felt like in my head, that was like I had to keep paying attention to that. And I had to keep like, am I repeating the cycle here? Am I marrying my father here? And I felt like that's one of the reasons why I broke up with him because I felt like, oh no, I've dealt with this my whole childhood. I'm not dealing with this in a marriage and have my children subjected to this. And so I kind of um broke up with him because of it. But it was always something that was in the back of my mind that I kept like little things that I observed where I was like, and he would always be like, I'm always calm with you. Like, you know how to like calm me down. And I'm like, I don't want that job.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to be the one to control your emotions. You can't do that for yourself. That's weird.
Mhm. Mhm. What about women?
Red flags with women, like
And that
friendships.
No, like I would like women like the man for the woman. I
Oh,
think
oh.
same thing. Like my husband used to tell my sons and me, be careful who you end up with and her relationship with her mother. A woman that does not get along with her mother is a red flag. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't toxic mothers. We know this. But are you doing work around that? See, that's where I would take it further, especially now that I'm back unfortunately in a space where I have to, if I want to be with someone in the future, I'm looking at those things, like are you not everyone has the parents that maybe they deserved. I don't want to be the recipient, like Sam said, of like your mother wound and vice versa. The girl that doesn't get along with her mother to a point where she doesn't do the work around it or didn't get her needs met growing up. Now my sons have to date her or be with her. And what does that mean for them? I think that goes with both ways. Now, same thing with the father, the daddy issue. Are you being codependent, looking at the man as like a father figure or just like this insecurity that a man is filling a void that you're carrying from a need that wasn't met growing up, right? That's one thing. Now that I'm in this space, I feel like now my pink flag is what work have you done? Because we know Gen Xers and older millennials sometimes don't do their work. They think that they got through life unscathed, but then they bring things into their relationships and then we have to deal with it and vice versa. So my thing is, you'd be surprised. Men also want a woman that's done her work. A lot of women don't do their work either. So whatever age you are, whatever situation, because we always get on the younger generations, but they go to therapy with no issue. They do a lot of things for themselves earlier on than we did because we didn't have the resources probably, or because we thought that going to therapy was for crazy people. But now we know different. But now you got 50-year-olds, 40-something-year-olds who haven't done their work and they've, had good jobs, they've gotten through life, they've coasted. And then, when it's time to meet that deeper emotional relationship, there's something going on, in my opinion, and what I've seen as a therapist, but also as a woman who's now in this stage of life. And so I think that it's very interesting because I'm like, now my pink flag is, you haven't done your work. Okay, let's see. Let's see what happens with that. But you'd be surprised. A lot of people are doing their work now. What does that even mean? But I think what I want at least is some level of self-awareness to know, like, if you did go through some things in life, because we all have, whether it's earlier in life or later in life, we've all been through something. Then how do you view that? What is your perception of that? What are you carrying? What did you learn from that? You know, what are you how have you evolved from those situations? Because now that I'm in this space, I want to know that you've evolved in life. I don't want you acting like you're 25. We're not 25.
Mm. I definitely had those issues when I was young with men or my boyfriends. I always had to have a boyfriend because my father wasn't fulfilling what I needed. He never told me he loved me. He didn't show any affection towards me or my mother. Never heard anything I love you towards my mother, nothing like that. So I always had a boyfriend, always had a boyfriend no matter what they did to me. I still stayed with them. Relationships took a long time
And it's part of the evolution process, right? You know, because even
growing.
you don't realize sometimes what the dynamic of your home was, what the parents, their own behavioral patterns or their own traumas and wounds, what they're bringing in as a child, you're witnessing that. So, for example, like for me, my parents would fight all the time, right? So it was very escalated, very volatile, energetically or whatever. And then it's like I married somebody that wasn't like that. And I'm like, oh, I feel safe with him because he's not volatile and he's not a drunk and he's not whatever. And but then you come to realize, like, that's just kinda hoodwinking you because now you married somebody that you're just like, "Hello, do you even care?" You know, like, "Is there anything in you? Is there any fight in you?" Like, you know,
Mhm.
it evolves into other things or whatever. So, it was a false sense of safety because you're still not safe because now it's the opposite. Now you're on the opposite spectrum of trying to be like connect. And so it's really just to me, it's always about connection. Like, how did those people connect? And they were kind of the example of what connection is. And I think that, like, I'm conscious of that now. Like, how do I connect with friends? How do I connect in my marriage? How do I connect with my kids? And kind of working through the behavior plan because we all have it, our own behavioral patterns that kind of sabotage the way we connect with people.
Don't you think that that also makes it better to get married at a later age? Like, I feel like getting married in the 20s is too early.
Depends because you can still be in survival at 30. So Samantha's referring to, I'm like that you're picking a partner based on survival because
Mhm.
now he is fulfilling a safety that is like surviving, right? Because if you're coming from a certain childhood pattern, you are looking to be safe on a primal level, not on a deeper emotional level yet, because that's more important at the time. So now when you do your healing work and then you're like, oh, I want emotional safety, I want intellectual stimulation, I want
Yeah.
all these things, it's hard to access that when you're still operating in survival and need that safety on a primal level.
And it's even the language, because it's like, for me, it's like, you don't even know what that is, because first of all, you never witnessed it. You were
Mhm.
trained to be a people pleaser. You were trained from a young age to be a certain way. And so it's like, you don't even know what emotional intelligence is. Like, you don't know that at a younger age. Or even the language now that we have about mental health and all that stuff, that didn't exist when we were that age. So we weren't even aware of, we knew something was missing, but there was no description of what that was. And you don't realize until, you get into your 30s and 40s and you start having certain realizations because you're at a different maturity level and life experience.
Well,
Where
if it wasn't for procreation, we probably I would probably get married at 50.
And some people do. Like, I had a got married later in life because at that point he wanted companionship. Before that, he didn't want monogamy. He didn't want children. He didn't want any of that. And so he was living his life true to himself. But then he got married in his 50s and he was like, this is the love of my life. And the same thing with his wife. His wife was like, this is the love of my life. And they didn't have children. They didn't have anything, but they connected at a stage of life where that's what they wanted. They wanted that level of connection and companionship that you don't get when you're in survival mode of I gotta work, I gotta raise kids, I got da 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 da, whatever.
Right.
You know?
That's what I'm saying, like, women's bodies, the clock is ticking, so this whole marriage first, have babies after, things have to get rolling early.
Having this conversation with my husband the other day, and I don't know why this thought entered into my head. And I said, I wonder if there's a correlation. Because I felt like when I turned 40, like there was a switch that
Mhm.
went off in my head. And I felt like everybody was going through it because all my friends are on the same age where everybody was having this realization of who am I? Where it's like I've been this wife, this mother, all these things, but who am I? So there was like this identity crisis happening or stirring in the 40s, and then you're premenopausal, right? So it's also biological. There's a biological shift going on. And I said, and then your libido's through the roof, right? So women have their, sexual peak later in life, whereas men have it younger. But I said to my husband, I said, I wonder if there's a correlation because Google says men don't mature till their 40s. So that I was like, where women are now like at their sexual peak, but they need a mature man to fulfill that. I was like, I wonder if biologically, like how they were humanly designed, that is,
Yes.
a, a correlation there where, you know,
Well, I think it's socially too because of how we condition our men. Because you'd be surprised. Like, I don't mean 20, like your athlete age, but like I can see the younger men in their 30s are much more emotionally intelligent and even early 40s. Like they have a different vocabulary, they have a different way because our society is just changing so much in how we view the importance of connection and emotional intelligence. And so I see like even my younger guys in their 30s. So I feel like it's not just biological. I think it's also how you socialize our boys. They're in their 40s and 50s if they don't. I'm not saying that they're not responsible to do their work. I'm just saying it's not their fault if we're they're playing catch up, and that's assuming the woman's healthy. You know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
That's that's assuming the woman's healthy and emotionally intelligent enough. But I mean, I feel like the younger men sometimes have a higher emotional intelligence than even the older women because now we have women our age who never did their work, who are not as an emotionally intelligent. I don't feel every woman's emotionally intelligent. I think this is like a broad kind of subject that depends on, goes with life experience and things we've been through in life and how much healing work we've done on ourselves. And so now you have more younger men dating older women. Why? Because the older women want that emotional connection and they're like the younger men are like not necessarily always looking to have kids or whatever. And so they're looking for that as well. And so like it's just a different kind of the evolution in society has been really, really interesting and shifting. And so also you see, the younger men and who you would think are more immature, some of them can be a lot more emotionally evolved than the older guys because the older guys didn't have that support and teaching. They had the whole push through mentality, unless they really decided to do their work.
yeah. Well, I feel like women mature earlier because we have to. Like we're like biologically attached to our children. We have to have that sense to be emotionally because we're not just regulating ourselves, we're regulating our children all the time. Whether they're around us or not, we're that spear for them. So we have to do that where it's very different from men. And it's like I felt like 40s was more about like what are my partnerships? What are my friendships? Who am I? Like there is that evolution because now it's like I don't know how to put it into words, but I feel like we're kind of biologically shifting into that matriarch mindset where, if you look at history, most women, a lot of the things that they did and created and invented or whatever was in their 50s. It was after they were done with that phase of motherhood. That's when they really, because that's who they grew into like, okay, well, now I can focus on me. And I think the 40s is that shift of how am I focusing on me? Is this really working for me? This isn't working for me. And so there is that hormonal shift and your whole body now is just shedding another layer. And so it's an interesting when you're aware of what's happening. Like even now, like constantly like what's going on in my body now? Like what is my body trying to tell me? Because there's this shift of well, now people are going to come to me for my experience, my knowledge, my wisdom, all of that type of stuff. But that also is biological. And I think that's the gap that's missing. I feel like the older generation really didn't do a good job with passing down information to us. So, what are some green flags?
Consistency.
Consistent.
Mhm.
And I like to see, like, for me, I've always noticed, like, if a man is consistent about things for himself. So, like, if he goes to the gym every morning, if he whatever, like, if, like, okay, if you can do that for yourself, then you can be consistent with me. Like, they have to have the consistency of how they treat themselves. Like, they have to have their routine, and if I see that, then I feel like, okay, you do have some level of discipline. You can be consistent. Like, I feel like those kinda green, you know, definitely consistency is a big one. I think kindness and being able to connect emotionally, even though that's seen as a negative thing for men. Like, I know I've dealt with men where, they're in a relationship and the girlfriend's like, "No, he's too emotional, whatever. He's never gonna get it. He's never gonna understand." And I'm like, "You have to do your part in it too." And I was like, I think, because I always felt, and I always said this from when I was younger, I always felt men were more emotional than women, even though women get the more emotional part, they just hide it or they're told they're not allowed to feel it. But I feel like men fall in love deeper than women do. I've always felt that way with guys, like just the vibe of when they're in relationship and stuff like that.
Mm,
But I think kindness also, or some level of being able to connect with their emotions, to me is a green flag, because I'm like, okay, at least you can connect to it. Because there are guys that are completely disconnected emotionally. They avoid that. The vault.
mhm.
Oh yeah. The mo
The vault, where they're just stoic and just checked out, you know. But that's a green flag. Transparency is even more important than honesty.
Mm,
Like, tell me the things that you don't want me to know. Like,
mhm,
completely transparent. Tell me, you know
Well, that gets into vulnerability for me. If you can be vulnerable with me, um, and authentic, those are the top 2. If you could be authentic, just I don't wanna see a performance. I don't want you to think that I don't want you to be the cool guy that everybody likes. I don't need that. I want you to be the good guy. I mean, as long as you're kind and good and you're just, like, being yourself and you're confident. Like, I find a grounded man so sexy. Like, he can just sit back and, like, watch you, like, just be you, like Jose did that for me. And just also not get all riled up over every little thing, like, just really be grounded and consistent and just authentic, like himself, not super friendly to, like, please people, but, like, not kind and grounded. I find that sexy.
also who he surrounds himself with as well.
Part of it.
Yeah, I think that
Mm,
their
his
through their
his
friendship,
circle.
how long they've had friendships.
Mhm,
A guy that can't even keep friendships or
right.
doesn't like, lifelong friends, to me, that's a red flag. I'm
But
like,
if you
What
have a
about
lifelong friend and those friends are not evolving, that's another red flag. That's the other end of the
right.
point for me.
What about a guy that has a lot of female friends? What do you think about that?
Oh. Mm.
that's a
I don't know about that one. See,
I
I
know
feel
because
like
you
I
know
was married to someone who was super not jealous. Jose was not my late husband was not jealous at all. He let me be me. He never questioned me. He never blew up my phone. But one thing he did not want was he was like, "Nah, I'm not facilitating you to hang out with a guy friend that I had back in the days." And he wasn't against it. He was just like, no. And I was like, he had girlfriends and he never hung out with them alone. If you want to invite him over, fine. I just feel like that's not necessary. Guy friends, girlfriends in groups, that's fine. Like if you come with a group, if you come with, I knew them from this time. But if you're hanging out with your girlfriend and you're on the phone with them, no, I'm not. I'm not.
no, that's weird. Yeah.
But that's what people try to defend. "Oh, we've been best friends since whatever." Okay, fine, be best friends, be close friends, but are you talking to them on the phone on your own? Are you emotionally invested more in them than you are in me? Are you telling her things more than you're telling me? Are you hanging out with her alone? I'm not no.
Well, I
mhm,
think too, like, and that was one thing that Mark and my husband and I have always been like, because I was like, I always protect your name behind your back, right? So in that instance, like, if you have a friend, guy or girl, and you're telling them the stuff that you should be telling me,
Yeah, no, that's emotional cheating to
right?
me.
Like, that's not okay. Like, for me, I'm like, I always protect your name. Like, and I remember years ago, I was out to dinner with a friend, and she was just like, "You're the only person I know that never speaks ill about your husband." And I'm like, "Huh?"
Oh,
And she
me
was
neither.
like,
I never spoke ill. No.
she goes, "Yeah." She's like, "My mother, my aunts, my friends, everyone else always complains about their husband. They always have something to complain about their husband." And she's like, "You're the only one that never complains." And I'm like, "Well, why would I complain about my person? Like, if I have a complaint, I'm gonna complain to him." Like, fix that. Stop doing that shit. Like, why would I talk to other people about my complaints? Like, I'm letting them into my relationship, like behind closed doors, that like now you're gonna have an image of him that I don't want you to have. So I feel like that's a big like green flag to me is when you protect and that's like friendships, work,
Mhm.
like if you're protecting my name behind my back, then that's a green flag. Like then you're my person.
Mm.
Think there's also a difference too, and I agree with that. But I also think that there's a difference too. Like if you, let's say you're going to your girlfriend who you're like your bestie or one of your besties who you confide in and say, "Hey, this is going on in my marriage. I'm like struggling here." I think that's reality. That's fine. But bad mouth, right? But to bad mouth your man for stupid shit, like same thing. Like I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not complaining about that. That's dumb." Like like when you hear women cackling around like their husband's this. I mean, men. And I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah, like you always have your girlfriend where you're just like, I'm going through something, but there's nothing I'm telling that girlfriend that I haven't told my husband.
hmm
So it's like when you're just like, I just need a vent, I have this going on, or I need a different of opinion or expand my perspective. Like, am I missing something? Like that's what your girlfriends are for. And even some guy friends, like have guy friends where I'm like, I just need a guy's opinion on something. And
Sorry.
I'm always like intrigued on how guys think.
Well, my body was telling me on Saturday that I need to work out because I can't merengue for more than 5 minutes without hurting.